Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, is Arthur Smith starting to finally feel the pressure in year 3?
And a lot of big moves made in Major League Baseball this weekend. But does Alex Anthopoulos have a final big move for the Braves?
And last but not least, and for the culture, is Trae Young being disrespectful? That's all coming up next. It's ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook for Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up in 10 minutes, is Alex Anthopoulos making way for a big move before the trade deadline? We'll discuss all that. But first, we have to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, yes, 7-10 in the first 2 years of this Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot regime. Now we're going into year 3. Is the pressure starting to build? Because when you think about the financial situation or the financial shape this team was in when Terry and Arthur took over, it was pretty ugly. I know that's an oxymoron, but that's kind of how you can describe it as far as how the people they had to get rid of, the franchise shaping people they had to get rid of, and Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and all that stuff. So now, it seems like, or I can pretty much say okay for sure in this one, he has the right talent in place going into his 3rd year. So do you think some of those, obviously the expectations are going to be raised when you're talking about having the right talent in place. So do you feel that Arthur Smith right now is starting to feel that pressure come on a little bit?
Yeah, I can't see how you could not, because you finally are out of cap hell.
Yes.
So you went out and got the players that you can get when you're out of cap hell, even if some may say, and I'm giving this as an example, some may say, you might have paid a little bit more for Jesse Bates III than maybe people would wanted you to. But when you are out of cap hell, at least you have the option and the opportunity to be in the mix, to be able to pay a guy and make him say, hey, I think I'll come to Atlanta. So that's one piece of it, right? The second piece is we're now in year 3. So some of the pieces that you've had the entire time, the good pieces, a Grady Jarrett, an AJ Terrell on defense, on offense, a Chris Lindstrom, and dare I say even a Jake Matthews, because those are the Absolutely, 4 that you had all 3 years, right? Because if nothing else, Jake Matthews is consistent. So now that you are layering around them, here's an opportunity that you don't have to say anymore, like, I don't have the guns. Well, no, you're surrounding those 4 people. And dare I say as well, again, daring, look at the 3 opponents you got games against this entire season. I dare somebody to say that there's more stability or more upside to the Saints, the Panthers, or the Bucks. And I'm just going to ask you where have you been the entire offseason? Because if you've been watching all of the offseason moves in the NFC South, I really would say that, and this is objectively, I say the Falcons have made the most viable moves for you to be able to say, now everybody's in place. Now you have all of the things that were kind of dogging you the first couple of years. All of those things are gone away. So yeah, now the pressure is on to show improve.
And you know what? For me, I really feel like, there's some pressure there from an outside perspective. But when just looking at Arthur Smith and the type of person that he is and the way that he's built, like I don't think he feels it. I don't think he's going to even acknowledge it. He's like, sure. Like, losing games and, hey, I'm here to win games. So I understand that part of it. But when you're talking about how I approach it, like my mindset going towards it, I don't think he's going to fall into that at all. But
that's why I asked that question when we were doing our pregame pre-game show, pre-brief show.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, because we do pre-game, guys, by the way. But yeah, that's why I was asking the question of like, what is the definition of pressure, right?
Yeah.
Because we keep hearing that word thrown out there by certain pundits, and it's like, okay, you're absolutely right, Jarvis. Arthur Smith the only pressure Arthur Smith feels is pressure he puts on himself. But then the definition of what is everybody else's definition of pressure then? Is it making the playoffs, whether that's wild card or winning the division? Is it a winning record that tells you that you're confident that a playoff berth will happen next year? I mean, what is pressure really?
I think it's division or bust, to be honest with you, because for the reasons that you just laid out, because they did make more. I feel like they made better moves, than the teams in their particular division. Now, you talking about a wild card? Like, I think your expectations are a little bit too high. You talking about winning 11 or 12 games? I don't think they're in that boat. But given that no one had a winning record in the division last year, and coming into this year, you got guys like Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young and Derek Carr. Those are the quarterbacks you're going to face 5 times. I'm sorry. You're going to play 6 times in this season. So, now, granted, Bryce Young might go on to be one of the best quarterbacks the Carolina Panthers ever had.
Sure,
but now he's a rookie, and rookie quarterbacks struggle in the NFL for the most part. So, and no one is going to sit up here and explain to me that Baker Mayfield is going to be a viable starting quarterback in the NFL, because we've seen what he is and we know what he is. Derek Carr, he'll put up some numbers, but I don't trust him. I don't trust Derek Carr. No. He's not a winner either. So let's go ahead and put that out there as well. So when you think about what they're going up against, I think the expectations are. And I think that where the pressure comes from, like you mentioned, from the outside, it has to be to win that division, because at the end of the day, like, there's no real reason not to, because like you said, you have one of the easiest schedules in the league. Like you said, you spent the money, you spent the money on the veterans on the defensive side of the football, where you needed some veteran leadership on that side, because hey, you just haven't had it in these past couple of years, and Dean Pease will screaming at the top of his lungs to let people know that too, you know what I'm saying, without throwing people under the bus. So I think when you spend the money like you did on the defensive side of the football, then you draft your young, explosive, offensive weapons, and the head coach is the offensive coordinator as well, so who call the plays on Sunday. Those are some of the things where I said, okay, all right, everything's lining up, Arthur. And you know what, to be honest with you, T, I really feel like he's going to be able to get it done.
I think so too. And just to add before we move on, I think the other piece of the pressure is, remember we were talking about this a lot last year, like woohoo, that the run game is top 5, even top 3, but your offense isn't. Your offense is middling, and your defense is nowhere even sniffing the top half in the NFL. I think that's the other place where there's pressure as well. When you go out in the offseason and you get all those pieces, top 10 or bust is enough, kind of like a subset of what you just mentioned about playoffs or bust. Well, then that means top 10 or bust for that defense. And I would venture to say as well, top 10 or bust for the offense, because now you have, to me, a more viable quarterback in Desmond Ridder, and you also have multiple weapons in his positionless brand of football. So that offense, there's no reason that offense as a collective, not just in the run game, can't be top 10 too. So I feel like there's some pressure there as well. Like, okay, Drake London, year 2, Kyle Pitts, you're coming back stronger. And all of the little pieces that we rarely talk about, Jonnu Smith, Mike Hollins, what's CP going to do now that he's got a little bit of pressure off of him and not carrying the whole load? I think that's some pressure too. Again, not to say that is pressure that Arthur Smith is putting on himself, but if you're asking the question of framing where the pressure is and what the expectations of why it's there, that's it too.
And get out of the bottom of the cellar and sacking the quarterback, for God's sakes, too. Like, let's go ahead. Can we throw that in there, T? Like, that's kind of where I'm at right now with it,
That's a great point. That's a great point, because
it is time.
QB hits are nice and passes defense are great.
Hurries, that's cool.
Hurries are nice, but no, get him on the ground. And keep
put the
there.
damn quarterback on the ground.
Yeah, get him on the ground.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Choose violence.
Choose violence. Yes. That's another moniker that we're going to adopt this year.
Yes.
Choose violence.
Say, if you hear Jarvis and I say it every show, don't be mad, because yes, I like it We're moving from pass rush matters because we've already told you that you know what it
Yes.
is. So now when we
Know what
say
it is.
violence, choose violence, you all know what it means. You know what it is.
Choose ye today. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Speaking of choosing, how about this? How about you choose the number one sports book in America? How about that? FanDuel. FanDuel is right there waiting for you because guess what? You know, the second half of the season is rolling along. Did you get a chance to bet on those home runs over the weekend? Woo, you missed out if you didn't because Lord knows Matt Olson and Marcell Ozuna out here, they're going yard, and more yard. So, yeah. You can go right there because FanDuel is the best app to go to bet on Major League Baseball. It's safe, secure, it's super dope, easy to use, and plus you don't got to worry about nobody getting all your information and sending you spam and all that good stuff. And once that bet clears, guess what? You get your money right away. You don't have to worry about texting nobody, trying to chase nobody down, trying to get your bread and all that good stuff. They got you covered. So here's what I want you to do. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of $200. Yes, all you gotta do is drop $20 and you're gonna get up to $200 in bonus bets back, win or lose. So it's a win-win for you. So we don't have to worry about losing when you talk about FanDuel.com. So FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, FanDuel. It is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
And another good bet might be that Alex Anthopoulos is going to make a move before the trade deadline. The question is what kind of move that will be. So we've gotten some good news, right? We've gotten some encouraging news, the fact that on Sunday, we've got word that Max Fried is indeed on his way back. No more rehab starts. So it's looking like he's probably going to be inserted in the lineup for the Cubs series this weekend. That was yesterday. Then got more good news today that AJ Minter is done with his rehab assignments. He's off the IL, so he's on his way back. So you look at that, coupled with the exact thing you just said, Jarvis, about the Bats just going crazy, 29 runs across the 3 games and a sweep of the Brewers, 5 out of 6, even in like the last, 10 days collectively. And you say to yourself, okay, you've got that piece with the Bats, right? And then you've got this piece where the Bats are now waking up again. And you've got this piece where you're getting Max Fried back and you're getting AJ Minter back. So how much do those things, coupled with the fact that you look at the starts that you got this past weekend, you got a little bit of what you needed out of AJ Smith-Shawver. Now you send him back to AAA. That's quite fine. Bryce Elder, you got pretty much what you needed out of him. How, Jarvis, do those things kind of dictate whether or not Alex Anthopoulos finally makes a big move? I'm sorry, Jarvis. And might I add, because I know you're going to appreciate this. And part 2 of that, Jarvis, is how other moves around the majors may be dictating his moves.
Ooh, when you think about like the Rangers trading for, Max Scherzer and Jordan Montgomery and all that stuff, they're just loading up and it's starting pitching because we all know like the Braves scoring all these runs and all that stuff, that's all well and good. But when you start getting into those playoffs, like it's more so about timely hitting than versus trying to go yard because people are going to throw their best 3 guys out there and you're going to have to be effective. And right now, who's going to be that 3 right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Elder, he's back. He had a couple of back-to-back starts where he's kind of looking like he's on the mend, both of them against the Brewers. But, hey, we'll take it. And then Uncle Charlie had his struggles as of late. And he's going to be on the mound against the Angels tonight at Truist Park. So I think for me, though, like when given the landscape of, like you said, the trade deadline, I go ahead and start with that one first. And you see all of the contenders are doing what they need to do. The Dodgers, everybody out here doing what they need to do to load up for the playoffs. And I think that there is something very interesting that I feel like that makes me feel like, the Braves are actually going to do something. Because when you think about where we are as far as shortstop, right? The Orlando Arcia, he's pretty much locked in. And then you have the Braves go out and acquire Nicky Lopez. He plays shortstop, second base, third base, whatever, right?
Right.
Like, okay, like you got a young pup down there in Vaughn Grissom that can play all those positions too. So I feel like this. Here's my thing. I feel like Alex Anthopoulos is loading up to go get a starting pitcher. You know, I really feel like that's kind of where he's going to lean towards going, getting, right? You know, when you're talking about a big move, if we're talking about a big move, I think that's starting pitcher. And also, the Braves checked in on Justin Verlander too, T. Like, so that's, I mean, now Alex Anthopoulos said there were any real negotiations, but they did check in to see what's going on because the Mets traded David Robertson, you know, a really good reliever to the Marlins within the division. So it's kind of like the Mets, like, hey, it's kind of free willing. Hey, we're going to do what we need to do. So I think that all those things, all these factors, it kind of seems like Alex Anthopoulos playing a little chess, saying, you know what, I'm moving some things around, and I'm trying to see, hey, what would you want if, like, ... fill in the blank. You know, if it's a Justin Verlander or a Dylan Cease out of the Chicago White Sox. If we were to engage in conversations, what would the starting point be? And I feel like Vaughn Grissom would be a piece that would be in there if the return is right. And I feel like a guy like Justin Verlander and definitely Dylan Cease, because he's under control for like the next 2 or 3 years. So that'll be worth it, well worth it, you know, to go and make that type of move.
Right. And here's what makes it worth it too. Where you started is where I want to continue, which is you started with the Rangers.
Right.
I'm not just concerned or from the perspective of, and we both admit on this show that this is the one team we agree on that we're both fans of, right? So, you know, we're looking at it sometimes from a fan perspective, but also we can be objective. And so you mentioned something that I felt was an objective observation, right? Which is you're not just looking up and down the NL East. You're not just looking up and down the National League. You're looking up and down the entirety of Major League Baseball, because that doesn't mean that you're right. That doesn't mean that you're overlooking the Dodgers or the Brewers or any other National League team, but you're looking towards the possibility of getting your second ring in 3 years. And now I will invoke this, Jarvis, as a fan. And I know you're even more so than me, being born and raised here. How difficult, and you don't even have to answer this because it's rhetorical, but how difficult was it for fans to watch the agony of getting 14 division titles and walking away with just one ring? You have an opportunity now to go all guns blazing to go after the second ring in 3 years. Miss me with conversation about, oh, well, you don't want to, take all those prospects. Why you got them? I mean, that's leverage. That's all that ever is.
Yeah,
there will always be some that are untouchable.
Pieces.
Exactly.
I hate to put it like that, but that's what it is.
A Michael Harris II or a Spencer Strider would be prospects that, yes, you would agree that no, don't touch those types. But there are still maybe that second tier or maybe 1Bers, I'll call them, where you can, for sure you can package those and get somebody like Justin Verlander and do whatever else it is that you need to do. Because again, last I checked, everybody else is going in win now mode. Even the Angels and Cubs, who both gone on winning streaks of like 6, 7, 8 games and decided, you know what? Maybe we're in this thing. So maybe we won't go fire sale after all. So if teams that are right at 500 are saying, nope, we're going to go ahead and go for this, why wouldn't we expect the same of Alex Anthopoulos, especially because we're probably only talking about one player away?
Yeah. And here's the thing, like that's what makes it so attainable, right? Because of like literally this lineup is loaded, and literally the biggest question mark right now, like I understand the whole bullpen piece, but that starting rotation is like, are you? I mean, I know Elder has been pretty solid throughout the year. Went to the All-Star game for the first time, but would you put him over Justin Verlander in the playoffs, or would you put him over Dylan Cease in the playoffs? Those are the type of questions you have to answer. When it comes time to saying, hey, we're gonna be able to compete for a World Series, and we're gonna be able to do it right now. Right. Bryce Elder 3 years from now, he might be that guy. He might be your third guy locked in at that rotation. Yep. But now, I can't really say that. Like, I mean, I understand the whole ERA piece. He's looked good these last 2 starts, but I'm talking about right now, here in the moment, because you've already, thought thought out your whole future because you locked all these young guys up.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, Michael Harris and Spencer Strider. Like you talked about, you locked in your guys. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy. All those guys are under contract for at least the next 3 or 4 years. So it's got to be about the now, like, because you've taken care of your future. So now. Yes, I really wholeheartedly feel that Alex Anthopoulos is going to be up to something, and then I think we're going to see at 6 o'clock or 6:30 tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow.
6
I'm
p.m.
thinking first pitch tonight, but no, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yes.
So yeah, we'll see then, and I think Alex Anthopoulos, I think he's kind of moving some pieces around to say, hey, I think this might work.
Yeah, and I think too, when you're at the height of your powers, you can't make the assumption that the next year and the next year and the next year you're going to be at the height of your powers. And that's really for any league, right? So you don't know, because yes, you were able to get the World Series without a healthy Ronald Acuna Jr. So so we saw you get it done. But that doesn't mean that you can make that magic happen again, right? And we also saw last year where you had every opportunity to get another World Series under your belt, except you started hitting the injury bug hit you, and then you started hitting the wall with your pitching rotation and your bullpen, and then the Phillies were able to sneak past you. So again, if all things considered, you're at the height of your powers at the plate, you're at the height of your powers in the field. The only place you're not at the height of your powers in is the mound, but you're getting there.
Yes.
Get there 2 ways. Number one, bring the guys back who have been injured. And number two, give them a little bit of insurance, just the way you did when you went out and got an outfielder. Just a little bit of insurance never hurt anybody. That I think it would be well worth it, because again, do you want to parade down Peachtree Street or don't you?
Yeah, this time we're gonna go like normal speeds, how parades do once they go Peachtree Street. I'm still sour about that one, too.
Right. Oh, so triggered. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm still a little triggered. I'm still a little touched about that motor speedway type parade they went through downtown to get up to the Truist Parking and the Battery and all that stuff. Yeah. But anyway,
right.
But
yeah.
Continue. My bad.
Continue. Sorry. Right. Exactly. But you can see that Jarvis wants a do-over, and in a good and positive way. I'm sure the Braves would like a crack at a do-over too. But hey, listen, if they make any moves before 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, we are going to tell you about it. We also have some more deep dives for Falcons training camp. You know those guys, you heard pads popping today in Flowery Branch. So we're going to talk more about that as well tomorrow. And of course, anything else that comes out of the Atlanta sports landscape, we got you. We got you right here on ATL Day Ones. So make sure that you guys check out the videos, drop something in the chat, especially if you were at the Dream game yesterday, post game, and you had a white t-shirt on, or maybe it was a collared shirt, right? A white collared shirt, and you came up and said, hey, T, I watch you guys every day, and I didn't get your name, so I just wanted to shout you out to thank you for watching us. Tell all your friends to come and do the same. We appreciate you for that. And of course, do not forget to download us wherever you download your podcasts.
But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on this show. Today is no different. T, when you think about like the mainstays in NBA basketball, right? The guys that we see all the time. I always talked about how, I think we've talked about this before, about how the NBA veterans, kind of like the guys who kind of made a name for themselves, like the Larry Birds and the Dr. J's, and all those guys kind of just aged so well,
Yes.
And like those guys just kind of stuck around for so long.
Yeah,
and
still, yeah.
You just have a sense of respect, for those guys. But I think I may be going a little bit too far, but I know you always gonna bring me back to life. So Dr. J. He was in the conversation. He released his top 10 players of all time in no particular order. And I want to get your thoughts on this list, because Trae Young had some very interesting thoughts on it. But he said Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, and Tiny Archibald. And Trae felt some type of way about this and quote tweeted the list and said, "This gotta be fake. with all due respect. Now, we know how that with all due respect,
Right.
you know what comes after it. Most of the
bless
time,
your heart.
100% of the time, people say, you know, they're going to be disrespectful after that statement. So do you think Trae need to calm down a little bit, T? Because, I don't know, I'm feeling I'm some type of way like, dude, you know that's Dr. J, right? Like, this ain't no rando player that you play against. Like, this is Dr. J, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can see his rationale for Hakeem Olajuwon because I tell people all the time, like old school, if you take Michael Jordan out of the mix for me, he is my favorite player because as a dancer, it was like watching dance in motion, like poetry in motion. He played the most beautiful brand of basketball for a big that I have ever seen, even to this day. So I can totally see that. But I think you make a great point about the fact that we talked about this on Friday's show when we were talking about our Mount Rushmore of Atlanta pros and how we would have to put Michael Vick on the mountain because he changed not only the trajectory of that team and of the city, but the position of quarterback that is resonating to this day. That is what Dr. J did.
Yes.
He was over in a whole other league and pretty much kept the ABA afloat because of what he did. And then came over even in, you know, I don't want to say his twilight years, but obviously he was a bit older and was still able to get a championship and do things that were never seen before. So when you see all of the crazy things that we saw, even in this past dunk contest, right, for NBA All-Star Weekend, guess where it originated? Julius Erving. Erving. So yeah, I think you probably want to kind of like pipe down a little bit on that one.
And to add to that too, like, and he's a young guy, you know, like I said, I don't even know what generation it is. I stopped trying to figure out which letter he's in. I think I might be in the letter of who knows. Anyway, but I think that you kind of have to look at the time, right? Where you talked about, you know, the era he played in. He played in ABA and then came over into the NBA. So you look at some of those names on there, like you understand why he has Tiny Archibald on there because because Trae's been compared to Tiny Archibald because of his numbers and leading the league in points and assists and all that stuff. Like that was the first time that's been done since Tiny Archibald. Like so, hey, you know, like that's your comparison, dude. So you might want to say have a little respect for some of those things. So I think that when you have that, so he only can go off of what he experienced and at the height of his career. He understands the players, that were coming into the league. Michael Jordan obviously came into the league, after he did. And then he kind of saw that and understood like the impact that he had on the game. So you understand some of those things, but I know people might feel some type of way about it, but like if he doesn't have Kobe Bryant on there, like I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand it because that was just the time. So that's why I feel like some of these conversations we be having about the GOATs, it can be a little whack sometimes because it depends on how old you are, what you're gonna say, what your answer is gonna be. So I think that I don't think Trae meant anything by it, to be honest with you, but I think he has to understand, like, bruh, like this is Doc, like, and this man used to perform surgery on basketball courts long before you even thought about being born, and probably a little bit before your daddy was born too.
I mean, when you see some of the old footage, like I remember seeing a documentary of him on TNT a couple of years ago, and it's just mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling what he was able to do, and it does put into context what we see even today in the league.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of putting into context, like when you sent me this story, T, I had kind of already seen a little video of it. So, you know how we bring it to the people, we're going to have a conversation about it. So for those you don't know, young Miami, her little boy was having, it was celebrating his birthday, and they were down in Miami, at this event, and he was with JT, her rapping partner. So he was supposed to be watching her. She was supposed to be watching him, and he's only 10 years old. So there was this video that JT actually dropped, and he was making it rain on some dancers, T. And I'm kind of touched and flabbergasted because as a grown behind man with kids of his own,
Yeah.
to see a 10-year-old out there throwing money at the dancers, it just felt icky to me. And you know, she even doubled down, saying, you know, this is why I don't put my stuff out there. But like, that's not the point. It's like your homegirl put it out there, so it's out there for public consumption. So you don't then go and defend what the heck she was doing. You don't even acknowledge it for the most part.
Yeah.
It's just weird to me just to see a 10-year-old T out here making it rain on some dancers. Like I mean, that's how I gotta put it in context. Like, this is what it is. Like, I just don't feel comfortable watching that. They should be doing it.
Not at all. Not at all. And you know what came to mind as you were telling the story is, you know how like kids, whenever they do something, right, and they're little, 2, 3, 4, sometimes they'll drop a curse word because they've heard mom or dad drop a curse word, and you just chuckle and you laugh and you go, that was real cute.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah.
But you have to check some of the ill-advised behaviors at some point, or it's going to become their normal.
Yep.
So at 10 years old, why wouldn't he think this is normal to make it rain? Like, that's nothing that he should be thinking about in his teens, maybe 20s and beyond. But again, you are normalizing this. And this is only what we know. God knows what else you're normalizing with that kid. Again, you do you. Right. Exactly. You do you and whatever you want to do as the city girls and whatever you want to do with your videos and all that. You're grown. So that's a decision that you make as an artist. But as a child, he's impressionable. So if this is what you allow him to do and it's okay and it's all good, and we're not prudes on this show by any stretch of the imagination.
Not at all.
But we definitely want to always make sure the kids get the right message, right? And I mean, Jarvis, there's nothing right about that, like, at all.
No. Sorry, Young. Yeah, you're wrong on this one. I'm sorry. I think ATL Day Ones is letting you know that you're wrong. And, you know, let's learn from this. Let's learn from this. Let's learn from this and grow. That's what we're all about, growth here on ATL Day Ones. And we thank you guys for helping us grow to getting us over 8,000 subscribers. Don't forget, if you haven't liked or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. And if you missed us on video, check us out on audio. And we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And last but not least, folks, before we get out of here, I got to make sure I do this each and every day. If you don't do anything else with your life, make sure that you both share love, show love, stop letting your 10-year-old make it rain in the club, and spread some love.